we lost some earlier minutes, but we get 1 full hour again, brand
All
new.
yours.
So you were
All
telling me
yours.
about Jimmy. You were telling me about your childhood. So please go ahead,
So,
please.
like I said, I was born in Ahmedabad, and we were a couple of years in Ahmedabad, so I did my schooling there. The good part is I learned Gujarati there, and after that to Bombay for 2 years. I was in Daisar for a year in Borivali in a school, and then I was in San, and after that moved to
No,
Indore,
so you were
and I
born
finished
in
my.
you. So you were born where were you born?
I was born in Ahmedabad.
Jimmy, you run the guns too fast. Jimmy, you run the guns too fast. You run the guns too fast. So where you were born in Ahmedabad, and what
Yes.
were your parents into?
So my dad was
Jimmy,
in
your
sales.
internet is really poor. Something wrong with your internet.
No, it doesn't seem to be wrong with, I don't
Your
know.
internet, yes, because it keeps on
Okay.
circling over here. It keeps on
Okay.
circling. It keeps on circling.
Okay. Okay. Surprising, on speed test on the second screen is showing me 85 Mbps, so it's moving. But anyway, let's
So,
continue.
yeah,
So my dad was in a pharma company in sales, and
right.
so that was the base, and had a fantastic growing up time in Ahmedabad. Got to learn Gujarati in school, and then we moved to Bombay. Uh, so
तो
got to
चार
learn
पांच
Marathi
अहमदाबादी
in
गाली
school.
सीखो क्या नहीं?
बद्दी
हाँ,
सीखो.
चार पांच
I'm
बुद्धि
filled
सीखो
with a
क्या?
bhandar of them.
But fortunately, one thing which I believe you didn't learn was that Ahmedabadi chai.
Yeah, नहीं लाओ तो ये चाय आ भी चुकी. So Ahmedabad was lovely,
Uh,
and the growing up was nice. It was quite fun. I still remember those days. I think one of the best family. My dad had a scooter, and four of us used to go on the scooter. I think some very, very fond memories, even now. And after that, Bombay was good for 2 years, but there was a lot of changing happening in the school, so I never could settle down. At that age, when you're moving from one school to the other, it's a difficult period. Your teachers change, your education curriculum changes between states, so that's been a problem.
right.
And after that, Mumbai was good. Learning in SAN was nice for a year. Then we moved to Indore. Of course, it was a different culture altogether. Indore had higher Hindi. Indore had Sanskrit. So I landed up doing my 10th in Sanskrit and higher Hindi, both the things that have helped me in my life. So it was growing up was fun. My dad was in Sarabhai Chemicals in sales. My mom used to be a teacher first, and then she was a very enterprising woman. She used to run a salon from our house. So my bedroom used to be the salon, and
Great.
it was nice and fun, happy life. My parents, whatever they could provide, have always provided the best. Uh, so
So
I
how many
started.
schools you changed? How many schools you changed?
One, two, three, four schools till 10th. And
Oh,
after that, I never went to high school. I went straight for a diploma in mechanical engineering in Nagpur. So it was a 3-year diploma for mechanical engineering.
so wow. Tell me, when you were in school, uh, do you remember one of those friends, or you must have got great number of friends, number one. But do you remember any of those guys who have with whom you have some lovely memories? Yeah.
Yeah, we have some strange memories because I was not somebody who could be bullied that easily. And I remember when I went from Bombay to Indore in my seventh standard. In seventh the boys are growing up, so the bunch of boys bullied, and I was very small, short, very lightweight, but I couldn't still take the bullying, and I ended up getting into a fight with a boy. And the only thing I could do, he was a huge guy. The only thing I could do was bite him in his stomach, and I was thrown out of school. So that was quite something. But after that day, nobody dare bullied me in the entire school. I am still on my school group. We have a WhatsApp group with friends, which is more of a prawn group than school group, because that's all the boys and the men are shooting all the time. But I think good memories. I am in touch with my classmates from Indore. It was amazing that medium school in Indore, the kind of people that produce, especially my batch. Some of the people are in finest of position. A guy is in FedEx in US. He's the vice president. A couple of them are doctors, surgeons, and a couple of them are established business people. A guy just sold his equity to one of the largest furniture manufacturer, IKEA. So it was a very small town, small school, but had the best of people in that class. It was really nice. We just did a
So
school
very
reunion.
enterprising batch kind of a thing.
Yeah, one
Very
of batches.
enterprising.
One of
One of
batches. I
the
can
one
vouch
of
for that. One of
yes,
batches.
yes,
So we did a
absolutely, absolutely.
reunion on Zoom during this lockdown period, and we managed to
Right.
get a 92-year-old school principal and two of our teachers. It was an amazing feeling for them to see us and for us to see them together. So
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. It is sometimes this lockdown has brought in some lovely memories here. It has made them so live that
it has slo-
sometimes the people whom you have been missing for so many
yeah.
years and ages, you have been remembering them and never connected. You could connect with them so easily.
It has slowed down things in a way and given you time to reflect on everything that's your life and the past, and the obvious danger that all of us are facing with COVID. So when you kind of confront danger, you value things more. I guess that's
Absolutely,
that's that's
absolutely.
what it is all about. And in that valuation, relationships come at number one point, because nothing physical seems to matter. What matters is
Agree.
relationship and memories and all the people whom you love around.
So, but when you said that you joined engineering post schooling, uh, that means you had never inclined towards getting into this creative area of it. I know that you are not an architect nor an interior designer. So, I think
I,
so.
I did a I did a backdoor entry into design.
So, but you did mechanical engineering. You said in Nagpur.
Yes. I did
So,
my diploma in mechanical engineering from a private college, because in
okay,
10th also my marks were very mediocre. I wouldn't have gotten
okay,
admission in any kind of engineering colleges. So I still remember my father, poor guy, had to pay a donation and get me admitted to a private engineering college, which was
right.
very colorful and filled with some very colorful people around.
Oh,
So it was, in those early days of 90s, how the private education industry had taken over, and it was a free for all. So my college was filled with some of the choicest of Biharis, and some of the most rowdy characters you could come across. Our college had a result for mass copying, I think, 3 years in a row, and so it was a fun
so you
moment to
are part.
see.
You are part of that. You are
Yeah,
definitely the
I
part
mean,
of that.
absolutely. I've been, in Gujarati, there's a kahavat Sarva Gun Sampan. So I'm Sarva Gun Sampan. I can, I
So,
can, I
so
can get along
probably,
with people.
so probably that gave you an opportunity to become Rowdy Parsi also.
No, I'm not a rowdy Parsi, but yeah, I can deal with all kinds of people in my life. It's because of the education I had in that college. Instead of a 3-year diploma, it was 4 years. I stayed there, still didn't finish my diploma. Just left it one fine day and came to Bombay. But I learned a
यानी
lot in that
कि
college.
I पण छोड़ी दी तू
Haha.
मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग
I,
में
I
छोड़ दी
dropped, I dropped, I dropped out of mechanical. I never completed my diploma, but I learned a lot in that college. And apart from the rowdiness and how to deal with the mafias, so we used to have desi kattas coming out in the college, left, right, and center. It was like, I mean, it
oh
was it was in numbers. Yeah.
I don't want you to tell the name of that college please let's
So
not frighten
so.
or jeopardize the reputation of that college let them
but
keep it up.
but a lot of positive things, because I must admit I learned in this college. So in my later part of my design journey, I learned mechanical engineering, hydraulics, machine drawing. All of that helped me in my design career. I also learned, we had a very constructive machine shop where we learned argon welding, MIG welding, how to operate lathe machines, micrometers, screw gauge, vernier calipers. So we learned a lot of these things thanks to that college. And it is all those things that I'd learned gave me the capability at some point in my time when I wanted to set up my factory, which was first like a workshop and then it converted to a factory. All of that is thanks to the background that I learned in that college. So no matter how much I fool around with that college, it taught me very, very valuable lessons in life, how to deal with people and all kinds of people. So all my life, I've never had trouble dealing with labor and manpower. I can speak their language. I can behave in a manner that they respect and understand me. and also my engineering base has been very, very strong thanks to that college and the subjects that we did that time. So at some point in time, we started an MEP consulting company. We've been doing MEP engineering in-house for all our resorts, all our projects. All of that base has been thanks to that diploma where I learned everything across. But I
So,
dropped out,
so
never got the diploma.
I think so. It's a great sharing for everyone, and especially the teen ones that who always scream about that this is not the right thing and that is not the. You need to look for an opportunity how to learn from the situation. I think so. It's a
Absolutely.
great. I believe that's a great message to everyone who's trying to grow, who's trying to understand how the life is to be there, and wow, it is an excellent thing. So tell me, when you came back to Bombay, half done at diploma, what were you doing?
Konima, but things were not bright at all because no education, 10th pass. Uh, I had nothing. And a middle class Parsi family. We were 9 of us in that 700 square feet, 750 square feet Parsi Panchayat apartment in Dadar colony. So we had nothing to really look forward to apart from a complete belief in myself that I was just wanting to get into business in some way. One fine day, I remember my dad was super pissed with me. Kai karto nathi. Sikwa banwanu chhodine ghare avi gayelo che. He gave me a firing. And one of my masas recommended me. So I was sent to Pritham Hotel with a CV. I still remember standing at Dadar station. Those days there used to be typists at the station. There was a couple
Yeah,
of stalls at Dadar TD doing typing.
yeah, I
So
remember.
made my CV there, writing 10th pass, and went with that CV to Pritham Hotel. I still joke. The owner is a friend of mine now. I still joke with him that I'd come to your hotel and you didn't give me a job. So I went into the hotel from the front door. The reception saw my CV and said, "You are not supposed to come from here. You should have come from the back door." I pulled my CV back. I literally told him "F you" and moved out. So that's where my life has been. But after that, I worked for a month in Rajpal Plastics in Sakinaka as a person who was making buckets on a machine. So basically, as a glorified supervisor, they hired me just as an intern to give leave to the workers. And I used to release those workers every 1 hour or 2 hours. The worker takes a shift because your hands seem to burn when you remove those injection molded buckets. So
Right.
that was a good learning lesson for that 1 month working there, understanding how injection molding machines work, large format. And so I also went and worked a couple of weeks in Jogeshwari in one of those industrial estates with a company that was manufacturing handmade injection molding machines on lathe. It was
Okay.
fun to kind of get that background, but I had almost resolved never to work for anybody. So I never did a job for anybody a day in my life. Started off with pest control in 91, and rest is history.
Pest control.
Yeah,
Pest control.
yeah, pest
My God.
control.
My God. Don't tell me, yaar, you were into pest control. So how did you get the idea of doing pest control here?
So pest control is something that came across to me because I saw the PCI guys coming to our building, and on speaking to the workers, I kind of found out the chemicals, and I looked at the chemical they were carrying. They were not manufactured by PCI. Then I realized that there are these two stores at Baikala, Namdev Umaji, and next door there's another shop, I think VLG or something like that. These are the two stores where most of these chemicals are sold, and the pumps and everything they display. So I sold off my racing bike that I had. That's the only thing I had till that time. And with that money, bought drilling machines, bought these pest control pumps, and bought the chemicals, bought a bag to put all of this, and started off with pest control, doing household pest controls across. But I would never be contented with what I had. I always wanted to grow. So approached Bank of Baroda and managed to sign off there, I think 50, 60 flats in Bombay. Then they had a society in Nepean Sea Road, which was Siddharth Cooperative Society. I still remember the name. And that whole building I got for pest control. When I started doing pest control, they gave me their two lift room repair jobs. So I did that two lift room repairs. Another society in Pedder Road was known as Sunita Cooperative Housing Society. They gave me pest control. And with pest control, they gave me a little road repair job, water tank disinfection, plumbing wall repairs. So I was making money and growing and growing and growing. It was good. It was a good time. My first year turnover was about 4 lakhs of rupees. I bought my
Wow,
scooter,
in 91.
and in 91, yes,
So
and
you were a
the
real born entrepreneur, yeah. You were a
kind
born
of
entrepreneur. So you grab every opportunity which you got, probably,
Absolutely.
and you made out of it. You made the real scene out of it. So great, yeah,
Correct.
great. So from pace control, you moved to small petty jobs, and from petty jobs to repairs of jobs. And how did you move further ahead?
So I think somewhere around in 93, a grand old man of Indian plumbing industry, Nariman Nalla, I met up with him. He was family to us. He is the guy who's one of people. Any large MEP, especially plumbing company in India, is all
Yeah,
set up by Nariman Nalla. He's like the grand old man of plumbing industry. So
right.
he took me to Mamleshwar and gave me training for 3 days on plumbing. And after that, he says, "Maru letter
So
line ja bada
do,
architect paase." And you ask them for plumbing jobs, they'll give it to you. So
so
that was
plumbing में training कई बाजू आप एमना प्लॉट ना ऊपर
no,
के एमना घरे.
no. Emno Mamleshwarma, there was a piece of land, and
I
he
know.
took me to that place. And in that place, he made me sit down with one more guy. I'm forgetting his name. And two of us were taking kind of coaching from him for 3 days together in Mamleshwar on plumbing. So it
Okay.
was it was nice. And after that, I came back and started contacting architects with his name. Patel Batliwala Manohar was one of the first ones, and
Okay.
I think Dilip Desai, Lavji Contractor, all the old timers. I mean, I must have knocked on I don't know how many architects' office doors. Started getting contracts from architects, and one of the first large projects I got was thanks to Darius Batliwala and Manohar, Tata Press Limited at Prabhadevi. That building, whole building elevation had to be done with epoxy and plaster. Those days
Oh,
I'd never heard of the name epoxy. It didn't make any shit sense to me. So I said, yes, I'll do it. And I came back, contacted, and found out who Sunanda Enterprises, went and met with Dr. Manjrekar, understood everything that I could understand. Again, Dr. Manjrekar is a legend in the world of epoxies and construction chemicals. I don't know if you would remember me, but I would definitely remember going on my scooter to him, learned, and actually executed the job of Tata Press. And it was great. I got to learn about construction materials very early in my life, and that job taught me a lot. I used to work like a laborer who was moving up and down the building at Tata Press Limited on the scaffolding, and I guess that's the learning ground. But it taught me a lot more into architectural practices and design practices, especially within the city of Mumbai. All these old time architects, and how they worked, and who were their offices, who are their senior associates, and what is the method of working, who are their clients, how do you recognize his design. So I could recognize a Dilip Mehta's design very different from a Rustam Patel who did NCPA, and so on and so forth. It was really great learning session those days. Till 95, I started doing a lot of contracting jobs for people like Darius Rafat in Alibag, Nandgaon, Kashid. And those days, Nandgaon, Kashid were unheard of. For most people in Bombay, you would take your
I know.
workers there to do contracting job. Next day, the workers will be back because on that plot there is no drinking water, and people were expected to use seawater to manage construction, which was not possible. So it was fun. A lot of learning in those stages. I don't forget anybody who's helped me during that time period, and I have a great lot of regard and respect for each of these architects who gave me those jobs at that point in time. Uh, so we moved beyond.
So, by the way, just to share with you, uh, we have just a plot in between the Nalla Seth and me. I am his neighbor in Mahabaleshwar.
Oh, oh, okay. So what is the name of that? What is the name of his hotel that was there? I forgot. What is the name of that hotel?
I no, I don't. I
You
haven't
know?
seen his hotel. I
Okay.
haven't met Nalla Seth for ages now because I don't think so. He's moving out of his house,
No,
but
he's not moving
he,
out.
his plot is just next to
Okay.
in between. There is only one plot. So
Small world.
yeah, it's a small world. So memories are. I'm craving to go back, craving to go to
So I
Mahabaleshwar again.
remember I remember traveling in an ST bus and going to Mahabaleshwar and coming back in the same in the ST bus again.
Yeah, yeah.
So it
It's a
was it was
so, so most of us would have fantastic memories of our growth, and I think so they are very 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 great. Yeah. So tell me, having met with so many architects and learning from them the how to operate. Uh, Ashish, thank you for your advice. I will look into it. It's my show, so please do not advise me. I'm thanking you for your advice, but please, uh, uh, Jimmy, somebody got me disturbed. Sorry,
No worries.
with his comments. It's all right. It's all right. Uh,
Ignore.
so, Jimmy, tell me how was your how did you get into this furniture business and all these things?
So I used to do pest control at Bombay House also, and that is why in between during this lockdown period I did a webinar with Mr. Ratan Tata as my panelist, Peter Rich Architect South Africa, and Mr. Ratan Tata. I was very nostalgic in that webinar. Perhaps people who know me very well understood I was nervous because I've been in so much in awe of this man. Because I started off by doing pest control in Bombay House and doing small contracting jobs in Bombay House at Tata Steel. There was a director known as Ishat Hussain. The first kitchen job I ever got on my own to design and execute was Ishat Hussein's house at Ashley House, Kolaba. His wife was a very well-known artist, Rumanna Hussain. So his kitchen was designed and executed by me. So, I used to go to Bombay House every day, and I've done pest control in Bombay House with my own hands. That during that time period, I would also take walks across, and at VT, all these booksellers used to sit across at Churchgate and VT. They still do on the footpaths. I bought a book by the name of known as Ufficio, which was a catalog of Italian office furniture manufacturers.
Okay,
In that book,
okay,
I came across a company known as Olivetti Synthesis and many other companies. Those
okay,
days were days of fax machines. And I had established a small contracting office at Nipinsi Road in an electrical room in a building known as Bagesera. It was about 150 square feet or something like that. So there, I sent faxes to a couple of Italian companies, and Olivetti Synthesis responded back. That was 95 March or something. I went to Italy for the first time. Met them in Italy because I was in contracting. I didn't see myself really heading anywhere. Came back with an agency of Olivetti Synthesis for India, and it was very simple as an agency. There was no rocket science. They were not selling anything in India. And I said, why can't we start buying furniture? Those days, anybody you would get only under transfer of residence, and that too very few architects like Talati Pantaki and the large architectural design firms and
yeah,
practices and Nauzawadia and others would go to Italy and buy furniture for the clients under transfer of residence would come from Dubai. I said, why can't we officially represent them? I saw the provisions in import, and it was allowed under a special import license. Those days, SILs were known as special import license, and furniture and wooden products were there. So I not only managed to get Olivetti Synthesis to India, but in that period between 95 to 96, I managed to get 27 Italian companies. And that taught me
my
everything I know
God.
in the world of design.
Yeah,
It
the kind of energy you have, I think so. You manage little lesser, yeah. 27 is not a great number for you. You could have easily crossed around 50,
uh,
100, yeah.
it was fun those days. You're nothing to lose. Pick up your bags, go there, talk to companies, and give them a dream that I'll represent you in India. I will invest in the showroom. You don't have to put a rupee, and I will display your products. Okay, now, what difference I did was compared to any other trader, I was always interested in design somewhere at the back of my mind subconsciously. So Olivetti Synthesis, their products were designed by Ettore Sozzaz, Charles Pollock, Eldiello Monelli. Now, these design studios are legendary. They are the ones who define modern design to a great extent, and especially modular furniture. Charles Pollock's Cavalier chairs. So I started studying design studios, and I would request the company if they could get me to meet somebody in the design studio. No buyer would even ask
Wow.
them. And this guy in Olivetti was like my friend, philosopher, guide at that point in time. Uh, he showed me the ropes in Italy, became my very close friend, and that's how I managed to get so many companies and representing them in India. We were the first ones to set up a Italian furniture showroom in '96 in India. So many people in the furniture industry don't know this. We were the first official, almost a 3,000 square feet showroom at Tardeo in Bhatia, opposite Bhatia Hospital in a known as Della Tecnica those days. And after that, once we started getting the furniture here, we got into hardware. So Seretur Mironi, the spring hinges Salice, Poltrona Frau. I've been to all these factories personally in Italy and visited each and every one of them. And 96, when you would see in Olivetti a robotized arm doing spray painting. I mean, for us, apni jane bala robots were not known to us. So actually seeing in Poltronov Rao factory, seeing a green laser light guiding and cutting leather, and how can a manufacturer reject 90% of raw material coming to his factory and consume only 10%? And why would one set of workers work on all the sofas of a particular room? So Poltronov Rao has that tradition that they don't allow, so if there are a set of 3 guys, only those 3 guys will work on one room. And all these things were really fascinating to see kick-ass manufacturing, to see topmost design, and come back to India and meet the most fancy architects and designers with the latest catalogs from Italy, full understanding about design and manufacturing processes and products, and sell them these, because in India, these architects, of course, they would know, but the exposure was not really that much. So I've had all kinds of people, including Mr. Nauzer Panthaki, coming and spending time in my office, Mrs. Birla coming to my office, Mrs. Ambani coming to my office. And when we did Ambani's headquarter furniture supply for Shakti Parmar, so I enjoyed working with all the architects, and again, as a furniture supplier, understanding their practice and exciting them with design, because they saw in me as a person who understood design, and specifically to the world of furniture design and Italian products, better than their knowledge. So it was amazing. I can go on naming architects after architects who we've sold Italian furniture to. And then post 96, we did something in 96 that architects got to know us better. We did India's first Italian furniture exhibition in Nehru Center. So I must joke with Sumit Gandhi and tell Sumit that, dude, you come into the scene much later. We did the first exhibition of Italian furniture single-handedly. So whole Nehru Center was hired by me, and we did the exhibition. Pramod Navalkar and the Italian Consul General and my old friend Rustam Tirandas, 3 of them inaugurated the exhibition, and put the 27 companies there. That's the first time we invited some of the Italian companies to come and see the exhibition. So their salespeople actually came and they saw the exhibition and begin to understand that India can be a good market for them. It was how do I tell you? It was absolute ecstasy, man. I mean, it was a different high, and all the architects who visited the exhibition really respected what they saw, and that gave us a boost in 96. 96 we had to set up a small workshop because Indian import policy changed. And just when I borrowed all the money and set up the showroom and the exhibition, immediately the furniture vanished out of the SIL, and it became only for 6 months under negative list of imports. That literally landed me on the road, bankrupt with my containers stuck in. It was quite a learning lesson in life way too early. That was 96, and towards 96 end, I had taken out LCs through Tata Exports on a commission because I didn't even have banking facilities. So
it's a great, I think so. How many times you have flown to Italy?
Italy was second home to me. I had my bags there, my clothes there, my friends there, practically every month, and most times twice a month. So I would go to Italy. I was a small time courier guy, so I would book orders in India. And during this period when it became negative, what I did was I started going there, talking to the sofa guys, dismantling the sofa, telling them not to staple the final covers, and remove the covers with the polyform back and vacuum pack it in suitcases, and carry the sofas with me, do drawings and dimensioning of the frames, and come back to India in this workshop in Nagpur, create the frames, put the leather sofa covers back again, and it was an Italian sofa with Italian leather and Italian finish. But I would carry those suitcases, and even in suitcases, it was not that easy. So people,
you are great. You are great. You are great. I think so. That's a fascinating. How can you bring a? Somebody needs to imagine that creativity of bringing the sofa in suitcases.
So my friend, necessity is the mother of all inventions. So with borrowed money, not a single rupee in my pocket, borrowings mounted up, containers stuck, and clients are very powerful people who had paid advances, whose material I could not give not because of my fault, because Government of India removed it for that 6 months period. And I had some 4-5 containers stuck accumulating demurages. So you are in desperate times. And not only that, let me share another incident. So I would take 2-3 people with me, and because 2 suitcases were not enough, I needed 6 suitcases. And so we've got some people who still joke around, who used to travel with me, and we would take out tickets for New York, not just for Italy, because that time in airline there was a scheme. If you had a ticket to US, you could get 2 suitcases unlimited weight, because I had no money to pay excess baggage. So tickets were cheaper to take out a ticket. So we would fly to New York, get off in Italy, and New York, we had no work, just go to New York and come back so that we could get these 2 suitcases. And the suitcases were becoming, with the leather, 45 to 50 kgs. One man could not lift up. So it had to, even to lift it in a taxi, you required 2 people to lift up and put up the suitcase. It was a great learning lesson.
So tell me from this, I believe then you moved to even turnkey, design and build kind of. So how did you get into design and build?
So first it was manufacturing we got into. So thanks to Government of India stopping imports in that period, I had to release my containers and give an undertaking that I will show an SSI certificate, small scale industry certificate, to the Commerce Ministry and DGFT. Haath Pag Jodi ne, I managed to get the containers out, but I set up a workshop in Nagpur, got an SSI registration, and started manufacturing furniture in India, because I realized that, boss, you have to make furniture, you cannot import. So, but everything that I'd learned and raw materials I could import. So I started manufacturing. I got the first order from Hafiz Contractor's office for Star TV's workstations. And I till to date, I have tremendous amount of gratitude towards him because of that. So many times I don't think if he remembers it, but my gratitude for the man stays for this one thing, that first break was given to me by him. So I supplied these workstations. And by the time I could finish delivering, I got another order of ILFS 600 workstations. Again, Hafiz was the architect that finalized Herman Miller. But using my design, I said, give me 15 days. I created my workstations and got it approved from HDFC. So we did whole ILFS. And then there was no looking back. I set up offices and showrooms across India, in Bombay, in Chennai, in Hyderabad, at Banjara Hills, in Pune, in Delhi, in Gurgaon. And Bangalore. And each of these places, Bangalore, we did Oracle, the first building at Bannerghatta Road. It was amazing, but I became overambitious and accepted to give a dealership to a person in Dubai and put up a showroom in Dubai. So 98, we put up a showroom in Dubai in the worst recession. And also became overambitious to go back to New York, this time not as a courier to pick up stuff in free tickets, but somebody said, I'll introduce you to Macy's and Bloomingdale's to sell furniture there. But whilst I was doing all of that, I had no bandwidth of management. I had no financial bandwidth. I'd taken the best of projects across India. Every city we did kick-ass projects, but we let down everybody by not delivering on time. We didn't have financial bandwidth. Dubai collapsed. I almost became bankrupt. I had to shut down all offices in India and one by one finish projects. So I think I delayed Oracle by about 20 days. And the architects I did Stanchart in Chennai and I delayed it by, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. Edifice architects, we had major fights. So all the architects were given us work. We had major row, not because of anything else, only because we couldn't deliver it. But the learnings were fantastic, Kozema. And I made sure that no matter what, I had the guts to stand in front of people, not run away from a situation. Ultimately, beg, borrow, or steal, delivered and completed every project that was given. We even did a hotel then right next to Chennai airport. So all of this, working with so many architects, had taught me so much in design. And I was always at the cutting edge of design with the Italians, attending fairs in Italy, attending fairs in North Carolina and United States, and which no architects in India at the time were doing, attending fairs in Singapore. So my knowledge in design was always a couple of steps higher than most design firms in the country, and the exposure and the contacts with all these companies. So I started doing turnkey interiors. I think my first client was again Star TV in 99. I did an office for them at Kamla Mills. That time Kamla Mills was just being set up. One of the first offices at Kamla Mills was designed by me for Star. Triple ID managed to identify the project and gave me a Young Design Practice Award. I think that was 99. Since then,
were you young at that time? How young were you?
I hope I'm still young, dude. Don't make me feel so old. Don't make me feel so old.
I feel so fresh with you, Jimmy. I'm telling you, the amount of energy, amount of the energy level is so high and beautiful that
Thank you.
anybody who is there in your company is going to feel young.
Thank you. So it was great times, and even today when I meet these architects, the people who had given me projects in those days, I will in any public function make it a point to turn around, get up, and go and meet them because I still owe that gratitude to them. They may not remember it, but I. So Uday Joshi was the first one who pushed me into turnkey. We did HDFC Remen House as a contractor, and I was always complimenting Uday Joshi in design because whatever I'd got. So we used Dorma in '99, and Uday Joshi was a fantastic architect. So each one of these people, Shakti Parmar is a fantastic architect. The amount I got to learn from them, and by complimenting them in design, like when we did Ambani's headquarters, the furniture, it was amazing to kind of understand how was he ergonomically designing things for Dhirubhai. It was so great to learn. So if you are ready to learn from people, sky's the limit. There is nobody stopping you.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
so at that point we started doing turnkey, and perhaps for a short period of time, for whoever architects were giving us work as furniture suppliers had to face competition from us in turnkey. We started picking up projects across, but we specialized and we grew like mad. Our factories grew. We bought over the factory in Daman. We bought over the next door factory in Daman a couple of years later. We upgraded the factories with machinery. So it was growth. I was always taking my top people and visiting all the international exhibitions. I would always work with my top people in a very cohesive manner because in the world of interiors, everybody's scared of their senior employees. They don't want to expose them to others. They're scared they'll go and start their own businesses, which eventually happened in my organization also. But I guess it's you have no business to throttle somebody else's growth.
Right.
But everywhere we were ahead of the curve. We started understanding branding and brand management. I started taking a lot of interest and lessons in human resource. So I have got core competencies, not just in design and different diverse directions of design, but I follow HR as a passion, and I follow management structures. So I started working with managements of organizations we were designing. And I'm talking of some large companies, how to flatten their structures and how to get the best using design with branding. So how to merge their multiple offices and yet retain their culture, how to give them a new identity. And this I did not only with the non-technical people, with some of the advertising agencies, some of the biggest media houses, some of the biggest television stations, radio stations. It was, so I kind of at some point in time developed expertise to work with managements, not just with design, but they would call me for design, but then I would be a part and parcel of their core team, deciding the whole structure. And some large organizations across, it was
Right.
great.
So tell me from design to hospitality, how was your shift?
So 2008-9 recession struck again. Until that time we were growing. We moved into a central office, and we were about 1,600 employees at that time. Really doing great guns across India. But at that point in time, 2009 recession, things were bad, and I had already ventured into development. I did this building in Dadar in redevelopment, just finished it. I acquired a small piece of land to build a couple of vacation homes, including one for myself. I'm very fond of dirt bike riding. So I wanted, Lonavala to have some land where I could get horses, dogs, dirt bikes, and everything that I thought was recreation, entertainment in life, which I didn't get. 2009, we decided to set up a small adventure park. Everything I'd learned in Italy of how I would enjoy with my friends there and go bike riding and doing every kind of thing across, which I got into the adventure park so that I don't need to let go of people in that recession when projects shut down, but absorb them in the adventure business to design and put it up. I borrowed money and made the adventure park. We launched it end of 2009. Then we launched a small 30-room resort on the mountain. I had no idea of how to run anything. I could design it. And then we started acquiring knowledge how to run. So 2010 was our entry into hospitality with restaurants and a 30-room resort. I still remember we had no knowledge of hospitality nor a consultant. The toiletries were bought from local Lonavala market, and Pierce soap and all is what we started with. Today, we are proud to say that across 5 stars in India, our toiletries are the most kick-ass. People swear by them. So you learn things across a period of time. And that's how we entered into hospitality, again, a backdoor entry. And we never looked back. Year on year, we kept putting up more and more resorts because no matter how many rooms I was putting up, we were always 60% occupied. So magically, that figure never changed. When I was 30 rooms, we had 60% occupancy. We became 80 rooms. We became 125 rooms. And now we just launched our sixth resort in December. We are 275 rooms. And yet in December, of course, December is a one-off month for occupancy. But average, we do about 60 to 65% occupancy.
I think so. It's a great achievement. It's a great achievement from pest control to from rowdy college in Nagpur to pest control to the hospitality, which is a very sophisticated, very different kind of a business, and it takes a different edge altogether.
It does.
I think
Very
so.
competitive. It's a super competitive. So one thing I can tell people in the world of design who are watching or looking at this is, if you think design is difficult, hospitality is a bloodbath. It is super difficult.
And hospitality design is similar in a similar situation.
So we innovated businesses across, and a couple of years later, we innovated another business in hospitality. So by now, we become champions in experiential hospitality. I love creating experiences.
Like, I think so, Jimmy. That's going to be a great thing, because experiential hospitality is something which is going to grow. It's going to grow. People are going to want for. There is going to be a huge demand for experiential hospitality.
Agreed.
So tell me, in all this from pest control to hospitality, when did you get time to? Let me ask you first. This Della is coming from where? Was she your Italian girlfriend?
Yeah. So I keep joking with people that Della was my girlfriend, and hence the name Della. But my wife's name is Delna.
I see Della is laughing behind.
Delna, yeah, Delna is laughing behind. So my wife's name is Delna, but Della is different from Delna.
Okay. So when did you get married? In all this commotion, when did you get married?
I got married in '93.
Oh, so you started pretty early there also.
Yeah, started pretty early. I got married when I was 21. I think somebody should have given me a nice tupply from the back and said, "Dude, wait for a couple of years." But
but I think so. Then I would give some credit to even Della, that she stood along next to you in all the ups and downs,
sure.
and that's where that is what has brought you here, probably.
Sure. For me, it has been all about work. I am a workaholic, and I don't make any statements that I balance my work-life balance and all that shit. There is no balance. It's only work. Of course, we try and enjoy life. I'm fond of partying. I'm fond of bikes. I'm fond of friends. I love to share everything with my people. I'm never the lonely one. So if I have the best bottle of wine, I want to share it with my friends. If I have the best bottle of malt, I want to sit and drink with them. So what is important to me is, yes, whatever you do it passionately. So if you're partying, you party passionately. That time, right. Don't scourge and don't draw limits, and you forget what age you are. You party like there is no tomorrow. You enjoy whatever way you can.
So I remember Jimmy as a very taste of great man, because most of the time when people used to come from Della Technica, there used to be beautiful girls. All of them used to be all beauty around. So
we still have about 50% of our staff is women. I am very comfortable working with the opposite sex. They are more dedicated. They are more loyal. They don't take bribes. They don't switch jobs very easily. They are very dedicated. Even if they get married, they produce babies. They still work from home. So in fact, some of the senior most people across in my organization are all girls.
So, but surprisingly, friends, let me share something with you. Next time when you see Jimmy walking around with one young, beautiful girl, don't get mistaken. That's his daughter, Pearl. And I think so Pearl is doing a great job walking along with Jimmy, and she's sharing a lot of load from your shoulders. Yes. She's taking away a lot of work from you. I think so. She's running great. She's in a great, she has a great father, and you are grooming her well enough to take whatever you are trying to build up. So one last thing, I believe you are pretty active with your Parsi community also. So yes. How is that happening, and what all? Because we might run short of time, but Jimmy, I'm going to do something new for this time. We had one break. We will re-break even if this session ends. I will save this session on this and come back again in 2-3 minutes, again back again on a
Sure.
next session which you will join me. Okay.
So
So I have
my
not kept a count of time this time. Please go ahead.
no issues, no issues. So my journey and interaction with my community started in 2004. I live in Dadar, and we have a temple known as Agyari in Dadar colony. Like I said, I was on a roll doing exceptionally well. So I wanted to restore my Agyari. I requested the trustees. The trustees allowed me to do it. And I said, I don't want any interference. So there is no budget. It was like, it was my dedication to my temple. I went berserk and restored it. I'm using the word restored. I also self-learned restoration because I had no knowledge of it. So I didn't want to do new things. I wanted to restore it to its pristine glory. And right enough as God would bless me, I started interacting with the priest of the temple because I would go there every day. I have this habit of I get drowned into a project. Morning, night 4 o'clock, morning 2 o'clock. I get berserk when it's a dhul. And once I get into it, so I used to spend a lot of time with the priest there. It made me to realize that the Parsi community had really neglected their priests, not just the temples. And as God would bless me, I think a blessing from God, I got a award, Urban Heritage Architects Award was given to me. So I'm a non-qualified architect, zero expertise in restoration, and the Urban Heritage Committee that time acknowledged it. And I think Deepak Satwalekar was the guy who gave me the award. I won the Urban Heritage Architects Award for the Agyari, and the trustees so sweetly I put my name right in front on their own. And after a couple of years, they made me a trustee at the Agyari. But that Agyari got me thinking, what can I do for my priest? And I made a small NGO known as Parsi Resource Group. 2006, I launched that NGO, and we got all the priests across the country, their wives, their children, all medically insured, and started giving compensation to the priests who had retired. And some $2,000 or something we're distributing to some 600 and odd priests. So even today, 12 years down the line, 14 years, we have continued with the insurance policy for the priest. In that, we started working with the youth of the community. And the more I got involved with the community, more I realized problems. I fought a very active election for Bombay Parsi Panchayat, became a trustee. I was one of the youngest trustees then. Parsi Panchayat is a very old institution, is 350 odd years old. So one of the only documented old institutions in the city of Mumbai, and second largest landlords in the city of Mumbai. I did that for 7 years. So I would, no matter where I was in Delhi, I was in Lonavala, I would travel and come back Tuesdays for the board meetings. I did that for 7 years. I must have skipped a couple of meetings, but I still gave it my 100%. And Parsi community has its own set of challenges. It's not always a hunky-dory, very cohesive working force at Bombay Parsi Panchayat. But I enjoyed whatever I did. I tried to contribute to the community and the trust as much as I could. And even today, I'm heavily involved with the Parsi community, be it Fezana in North America or be it ZTFE. I try and coordinate and do whatever I can. Every time there is an issue in the community, I try and put my energies towards sorting out things as much as I can. But the Parsi Resource Group set up a small place of worship in Dadar. And this is where now our next generation is going to take over and try and see what we can do to help the community better. I also designed the Siddhivinayak Ji Mandir. So I get these inspirations and I work on them. I did the Siddhivinayak Ji Mandir, and again, it was a fantastic experience. See, it's an emotional connect. It's a dhun. It comes on your head, and God shows the way. I don't know how the trustees allowed me to do what I wanted to do. Otherwise, Siddhivinayak Ji, there are 1,000 do's and don'ts, and I did some radical changes there. We removed off all the sheds. We removed half the air conditioning. The grills vanished off. All the tin patri sheds were removed. We got glass barricading, and we did the Juta Chappal shop that was in front of the entrance was removed. I redid the entire entry, and still half of the things that I wanted to do are remaining. So instructions come from up there. You are able to do. We did whatever we could. We did all the new shops. We did human traffic movement was rearranged over there. We tried to make that into more of a pleasure. In fact, I wanted to remove one of the columns which is in front of the deity, but the priest said it's against the Vastu. I get into the depth of things, and I got into Hindu temple architecture, understood why, what. So still half my work at Siddhivinayak Ji Mandir is remaining, and I hope God gives me an opportunity to do it at some point in time. I also want to do the lighting for the Golden Temple. I visited, and So the Golden Temple is such a beautiful, magnificent structure, and somebody has ruined by putting white lights outside. So I always believe in lighting with smaller filaments. I don't like floodlights. And some stage, I hope I get the opportunity to do the lighting design for the Golden Temple.
Sure, probably with that purity and the willingness which you have, probably you will have definitely. And I believe you are a very very strong believer of Ganesha. Then
Absolutely.
you had some great relationship with Bijan Darwala.
Yes.
I
Bijan was
believe.
my, I lost
Yeah,
him 2 weeks back. He was my
I
good
know.
friend. And almost till the last stage, he stayed in touch with me on phone. In
Okay.
fact, one of his books, he dedicated a whole page on me in 2014. Three or four people he writes in a book, and there was one page dedicated in Bijan's book on me.
So it's great, because I saw your tweet when he expired. So I do connect that yes, you had some great relationship with Bejan,
Yes,
and Bejan was a very very firm believer of Ganesha,
absolutely.
Bejan Darwala. So we are going to miss him in his astrology columns in all the newspapers which he has been writing for so far
His
from
son, his
ages. I
son
don't
has
know. I
taken.
don't know.
His son
His
has
son has
taken
taken.
over the, yes, his son has taken over the mantle, and he's going to come up with the next book this year. But
Okay.
Bejan was something else. He was, apart from being an astrologer, even at that age and my age, there was a gap, but we bonded. It was amazing. His company was
Yeah.
great.
Right. Right. So. Uh, I would like to, Jimmy, I would like to take you to a speed round of questions. I want to quick answers on what you want. Uh, I am going to ask you again. What is your first name? First name of your name of your first girlfriend.
Name of my first girlfriend. Dude, you're putting me in a spot. Now, girlfriend in a relationship name or girlfriend?
You decide. You decide. You decide. I am not here to decide that. You decide. A girlfriend is a girlfriend.
Perhaps a one-sided liking for a girl was somebody in Indore. So that's it in my school tuitions, perhaps. So uh, that was the girl. But
नाम याद है कि नहीं?
हाँ नाम याद छे.
नाम याद only Della.
Okay,
I do spend some time with Jimmy, not every day, but I see him most of the time. He's there with Pearl, so there is no more fear.
don't stay too sure, huh? Okay.
Okay, so what was the uniform during your pace control time? What uniform you
Uh,
used to wear?
no uniform, but I would always be properly dressed. Even though I would work as a worker, I would get up and make myself all right. So there was no uniform per se, but I had given mystery pest control to my later two workers. That was the uniform for them in gray color. But for me personally, there was no uniform. Kozim, I must share this with you. I haven't ever told this to anybody. The other day when we were
Right.
talking on phone, he said, so I was traveling before I bought my scooter. I was traveling in the bus, BST bus, and those days there was only one flyover at Parel. You know,
Right.
I'm talking of 91. So
Ah.
the conductor must have smelled the kerosene because chemicals were to be mixed with kerosene and applied. So he actually stopped the bus in between and threw me out of the bus. So with those two huge bags, cans of kerosene, pest control pump, drill machine, I was in tears and I walked that bridge of Parel and come to the other walking. So I think this part of it nobody knows till now, but that was then.
But that's your determination, boss. That's your determination. That's your, I think so. Always you carry a very positive energy in it. Which was the first car you bought?
Maruti 800 MH14B 265, a second-hand car from Godrej. Uh, just the other day, I was talking to somebody in the Godrej top brass, and I was relating to them. I said I bought because Godrej used to have this thing of auctioning off all their cars every 2 years or 3 years. So there's a
Right,
second-hand
right.
Maruti 800.
Which is the best car in your collection?
I have a Hummer 6.2. I have a I think that's nice. That's something that I relate to the style and the design, not from anything else. But I love design that puts awe or inspiration into people. You know, you look at Hummer even today after she's now, I think I bought her in 2008. That's the last year Hummer produced the 6.2. Even today, if she's on the road, she's a head turner. And that's what good
Absolutely,
design is.
absolutely.
It's timeless. It's timeless. That's what good design is all about. And
So
so the
it's
Hummer is
also about the,
definitely,
so Hummer is also about the power and the speed, because I believe you love speed. You
I
love
love
speed.
speed. I love speed. Yeah, I love speed.
So which is the best bike you have in your collection?
I have a Ninja 1400. I have a Triumph Rocket 3. And I have a Ducati Hypermotard. I have a YZ 250. But all these, besides the Ninja, all these are more than 10 years old. But Ninja is the one which came in. I sold my Harley V-Rod. So the first Harley V-Rod, again, from the design point of view, I loved it. It was designed by Porsche Studios. So yeah, I'm fond of bikes.
You're fond of bike. Well, super.
And I'm fond of riding
So,
them. So I
so
love to rip them and ride them.
which is the longest ride you ever had?
I did rides from Goa to Lonavala for the India Bike Week festival that happens once a year. So twice I've done the ride from Goa to Lonavala. It has been tiring, and I've done it on my Triumph Rocket 3, which is a 320 kg machine axle ride. It's not an easy machine to handle this long distance, but I've enjoyed doing it. Pachi be divas where you keep taking combi flans and getting rid of the pain. But the ride has been incredible with just a single break for lunch and a straight non-stop 9-hour ride.
So tell me one more thing. Which is the most happiest occasion which you can remember just like this in your life?
Too many of them, so I would not be able to say one. But in my bike race, my father was never fond of me doing bike racing during my college days. But suddenly I see him in the middle of the racetrack asking me to go ahead and speed. I can never forget that instance in my life. I can never. He
So
was
which was
cheering for
that?
me in Nagpur. That was I
Enough.
think yeah, 89 Lokmat motocross trophy. I won that race, and that was perhaps one moment which was huge amount of happiness with him. But then you know, your kids are born. Those are absolute happy moments. You can never forget those. I thought I have two daughters. I thought my son was going to be a daughter. I mean I was mentally prepared for a third daughter, and I was looking forward, and it turned out to be my son. So yeah, happy moments through and through. I guess there were a lot of happy moments now. Setting up of Della store building coming up, the first consignments landing, factory upgradation. There's so many first villa transaction. You know, so many moments that you can never forget. So every inch of Lonavala, every plant, every brick, there is something which is emotional, and everywhere I can
I
keep
understand.
narrating stories across. It's
I
it's 10 years
understand.
of my life.
But unfortunately, see, we have a limited time, and I can't keep on. I will not be able to extend the sessions too many times also. So I'm trying to wrap up whatever best I can. Jimmy, at the last, I generally tend to ask people to send a message across to their friends. But I'm going to ask you, what was the most important life-turning incident in your life, which which made a lot of changes, and till today you anytime when you are down, you remember that.
I remember my bad days whenever I'm down. So how we came out of it and how God has blessed. Because I have come on the edge too many times in my life. Even post-pandemic, I am on one of such stages because all my out of 6 businesses, my 4 businesses are shut down, and I don't know when resorts will open. So that happens. But I guess a life-changing moment has been me attending design thinking with IDEO Design. That workshop really got me to think, why am I doing things the way I'm doing, and how can I better human life? So for me, it's not a management mantra. For me, it's my belief that anything I do should improve human life.